And, of course, we have the operatives here in this United States. Nice little picture we got. I'll tell you what, I had the hardest time getting this picture lifted off the website that this was on. I have never been so challenged. I'm serious. I am serious. It was just amazing. But this is something, this is a recent picture. It's only about a year or so old. These are some university students here in the United States holding that sign up. They're part of the Muslim Student Association, which is part of CARE, and all these other Muslim groups, which, by the way, are all affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. All of them. That's how deep it goes. We were only getting started, though. Okay, there's another plan besides Agenda 21 at play that's working on us right now. It's the project. This is a plan, it's a real written plan, that these people are following. Radical Islam is following this by way of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is the blueprint for cultural jihad. Okay, cultural jihad is how we're going to change the system within, how we're going to infiltrate, how we're going to go into various government agencies. We're going to seize power that way. Ever wonder why the court system right now doesn't seem to be operating properly? Have you ever wondered that, or other things? Well, they're starting to track all that stuff. Well, let's talk about the IRS. Okay, anyway, this is cultural jihad, right here. This has been featured on my show many times. This is called Flight 93 Memorial. This is the crash site for Flight 93 in Shanksville. Okay, is there anything wrong with that picture?
Yep. The crescent.
It's a crescent, yes. Okay, and watch this. If you, that right there is the actual crash site of the plane, right there. Now, if you take and draw a line that way, guess where it goes? Mecca. Goes to Mecca. Now this is kind of interesting. This is about a half a mile. And this is what it would look like in fall because they have these wonderful maple trees that, you know, back east, you know how those are. And they start to shed in the fall and they turn this crimson red. There's more to this memorial. Okay, now this is the mind blowing. This memorial was approved in 2006.
By whom?
By the committee that was set up to approve it, okay, in Pennsylvania, working with the Park Service. And they went full bore with this. You talk about Delphi meetings. They didn't know what a Delphi meeting was until I told them, the people that were in the committee. David Burnett Sr. David Burnett Jr. was the guy who broke through the cockpit to help bring the plane down. His son. I had to explain to them what Delphi meetings were all about. As soon as I said it, they got it entirely. They were being Delphied through the whole process. So the people really didn't have a chance. It was a predetermined plan as they went through the meeting process. Even over the objections of David Burnett Sr. and other people, Bill Steiner, even over the objections, they still approved this. They fought back, and people stopped donating to this. Something like $50 million was the price tag. It slowed it down. But lo and behold, money came in, we don't know where, and started to fund it, and now they've got it back into construction. This is one of the most heinous and sinister things I have ever seen as a memorial. And I'll let you look it up and find out about it. It's going to blow your mind how evil this truly is. And how they disparaged those wonderful people on that flight, those heroes. And how they glorify the 19 hijackers. This is a glorification of the 19 hijackers. We're talking deep here, people. Okay. How deep does it go? Oh, is that the president? No, I hate it when that happens. First sitting president ever. We just don't bow to kings and potentates as Americans. I don't. You know, so automatically there's something wrong with that picture, right? Might indicate that.
He's showing his best side.
Yes, he is. Okay. This is going to really freak you out because it did me for a long time. But I knew something was up because of who we had for president. This guy over here on the left is Steve Emerson, and he's been on the show a couple times. We had him on the show October, something like that, October. And it was kind of an interesting interview because I called him and John Rasmundo, who they're from the Investigative Project on Terrorism. It's a think tank in Washington, D.C. And I saw this article on Drudge, and I said, I got to have these guys on the show. And I said, well, I'll never get these guys. These guys are in really big demand for talking about what they're talking about. So 2 days go by, and I call. And the secretary answers, oh, call John. Gives me his personal cell phone. Kind of weird. So I call John. John's all over himself. Oh, we'd love to be on the radio. Yeah, I don't go KMYC. I said, you know, maybe we're honest up here. So we get John, I get John and Steve on the phone at the same time. We are the first radio station or TV station to get this story and broadcast it. And this is the story. They were growing very suspicious of the people that were coming and going into the White House. So what they did is they filed FOIA to get all the White House records. And the White House gave them the middle finger and said, no, we're not going to give you those records about who came and went in the visitors' logs. So they went around and pulled out all the records they could publicly. And what they found, that there were over 400 visits to the White House in 2009 and 2012 by representatives of the Muslim Brotherhood. His most recent article is about to come out. I don't know when, he told me this in the last interview. The most recent article is going to be talking about the Muslim Brotherhood who work in the White House on a daily basis and have contact with the president on a daily basis. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little worried here. Which brings me to this. This is the next scandal. This is a big scandal that's brewing. You've probably been hearing about this one. The Extortion 17, that's the flight, that was the term that they were given that night, Extortion 17, which was the shoot down of the Chinook helicopter. It carried 17 Navy SEALs. It killed a total, I think, of 38. There were 7 Afghan Special Forces troops on there. Now, if you've seen pictures of the crash site, there's not one piece that's maybe 2 inches big of that Chinook. It's supposed to have been a shoot down. Well, I've seen planes that, you know, war movies, and I've seen actual plane crashes. Usually there's like something left, right? Well, that's the first clue. Second clue is that as they found out, the parents of the SEALs, the parents started to find out from Navy SEALs, the talk, the scuttlebutt, that, gee, just before the flight took off, they exchanged 7 Afghan soldiers for 7 different ones. Weren't even on the manifest. And they talked about, some of the people that were in here, the Navy SEALs talked to their parents that they were really worried about people getting on the helicopter and blowing it up. Now this scandal is just huge. And if you think Benghazi is huge, Benghazi pales. And Benghazi's big, trust me. But I've looked at, there's a great video out that Tom Trento has, Trento Vision. I think it's on our website, Agenda 21 Radio. If you go there, it's a 3-hour video. You're going to be really incensed. And you know, how can it come to this is what you're going to say. Well, I'm warning you and telling you that this is out there, this is the stuff that's going on. Now, when you watch that, I want you to pay attention though as you watch it. That was on May 9th. What they did is they had a press conference in Washington. No one attended, by the way. None of the major news outlets attended. So Trento Vision made this video. And about 3 days later, the parents found out more additional information. So some of the information they're talking about there is not the way it is today. They've got more information. These people are, look, there's a guy, Wild Bill, I forgot his clip. If you heard Wild Bill, he does this thing about the most recent one. Well, it ties into that nicely. He goes up there and says, you know, President Obama, you got the military really mad at you, and especially the Navy SEALs. And of course, if you know any Navy SEALs, you don't want that to happen, you know, because they smile at you. Anyway, and I have some very close friends that were retired SEALs. So this is a huge story. Was it shot down? Is the story, the way the story has been told by the military, does not match at all? Yeah.
That video's on our website, Paul.
Oh, okay.
It's it's over 3 hours long.
Yeah, on the Sutter Tea Party website, it's there, so you can see it.
Carla put it on there.
Okay, now let's see how deep this really goes. I don't know if you've seen that picture before. Okay, this guy right here, this guy is John Brennan, and that's Joe Biden, of course. He's got his left hand on this book and his right hand there, okay? Now, let's talk about John Brennan. You may remember that John Brennan was held up from being confirmed for CIA director, right? They didn't want him because they knew who he is. So, but they said, we'll trade you. Darrell Issa, the guy, said, we'll trade you. We'll trade you some emails about Benghazi and all the things that happened in Benghazi. And we'll approve them. And they did. So, this nice guy, John Brennan, who was actually a counterterrorism advisor to the president, just who you would want to be your counterterrorism advisor August 6, 2012. Excuse me, August 11, 2012. That was the night that helicopter went down. Okay, let's talk about this guy. This guy here, in 1996, was assigned CIA station chief in Riyadh. He also converted to Islam.
Oh.
Okay. Well, you know what I find interesting about, I'm way into symbolism. I'm just hugely into symbolism. Interesting book he's got his hand on. It's not the Quran, it's not the Bible, but it is a copy of the Constitution. It's a copy of the Constitution. It's a draft copy without the amendments. That's called what he's signaling here. And this is what, I mean, when I saw this, I knew immediately what he's signaling. We've got some constitutional amendments that we could use with Sharia law. How would that fit our Constitution? That's symbolic. That's the way it works.
How did they get away with it?
Yeah. How did they get away with it?
Slowly, one at a time. Yeah.
They don't have to get away with it. There are two things that we are all susceptible to. A promise of security, and if he doesn't get it, a promise of convenience. And the last sentence I'll say is, if you don't believe me, next time you have a little internet search time, type into Google Facebook CIA origins and just see what comes up. I'm not promising a thing.
It's been a slow process. This has been in play for years. Okay? Remember I said the Flight 93 thing? Okay. They actually had these plans in work for Flight 93 by 2003, and they actually presented it in 2004, 2005, and it was approved then. This has been going on a long time. They have people in places that they shouldn't be. This is cultural jihad. We just have to call it up. I'm sorry, we do. It's time to do that. In other parts of the country, they're actually doing this. I just can't resist this because this is what's happening. It's so obvious. See, to me, it's so obvious. And hopefully for you, you're going to see what's going on here too. Okay. This was another one. This is another one. Isn't she a wonderful lady? Let me see this light somewhere. Snake. Okay, anyway, she's all flamed up. Now, how many of you have worked with gangs before? Gangs. Oh, back there. And what does that term mean, to be flamed up?
They're all puffed up and,
Wearing the colors.
yeah, wearing their, flying their colors, showing if they come to jail, they shave their head and fly their tattoos on their skull or on their.
Yeah, anything to put on a display, right?
Yeah,
Anything to transmit a message symbolically, right?
okay.
Okay. Now,
That way she's in green?
Yeah.
oh, she's in green. She's in green. Okay. Now, I thought it was really odd when she came in that night, or that day, and was testifying. I didn't really think it was too odd, because I already get what she's up to. And I've known this for a long time. But she is wearing that nice little Kelly green color, right? Kind of a peculiar Kelly green. She's got a gold chain with a black accent. She comes to the Benghazi hearing dressed like that. Now, what signal was she sending to the Muslim Brotherhood? Oh, did I mention? That's their flag.
Hey, I got a good one too. How about her husband in the White House getting a blowjob? How about her husband in the White House getting a blowjob when bin Laden is plotting against our country? How
Okay.
about that one?
That's one too. This, it gets better though. We're talking about sex here a little bit. Okay, this woman right here, okay, she used to be the president of this organization here. Her name is Uma Abedin. And she is Hillary's chief of staff. Don't you love it when a plan comes together? Oh, and I forgot the best. This, see, she's got this guy right here, she's hanging on to him. That's the better part for her, of course. That's her husband, Anthony Weiner. Yeah, that guy. You can't make it up, seriously. You just cannot make this up. And he's, you know, he's running for mayor. I mean, we've had some good times on the radio with Anthony Weiner. I'm not gonna, yeah. Yes. No, that's perfectly acceptable if they're doing something. And if, in other words, if they have an ulterior motive with these radical Muslims, I think it's called takreet. It's okay to do this. That's part of what you need to understand. What's she doing there and why?
So it would be the same as the gay Muslim president we have?
Something like that. You can't make it up. Anthony Weiner. Okay, Benghazi, 2011. Now I want to credit Wikiman right there on the picture on the left with the American flag and Obama thing. Okay, if you can't see it, and I don't know if you can, this is the mission in Benghazi. It's the wall, and there's these handprints that were bloodstained, and they're dragging along, and they've got this look to them right here. It was Wiki about, I don't know, how many hours after the attack and this picture went up?
A few hours.
Just a few hours. Just a few hours. The Obama administration claims this for their own flag.
Wow.
That is pure evil, people. That is pure evil. And when Wiki called me, because I saw this, I saw that, and I had it up on the website. And he called me and said, "Take a look at this." And I went, "Hmm?" It was just a couple hours after the original picture showed. The Obama re-election campaign created that. And they got so much flack from people that the next day it was down. About a day, it was down. That's the way these people play. And I'm telling you this because we have to readjust our attitude about how we play in the sandbox with them. Oh, and Common Core. sorry to change up subjects, I really want to pick you up right now. But let's suffice Common Core for this. It'll be real easy on this one. Okay, I've been a custodian to superintendent. I've written curriculum. In fact, in 1986, I chaired one of the very first curriculum alignment committees in the state between school district and state. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I was working on a master's degree, and I had to figure out what was going on. But basically what we were doing is taking a school district's curriculum. Okay, you know what curriculum is, right? It's what you teach the kids, and it's a plan. So you have like a plan for English and how you're going to teach it, what kind of standards and so on, for math, science, and so on. So we had to align it. Still have the document in the office. But this plan meant that we were trying to align with what the state here in California, down here in Sacramento, had come up with. We were trying to meet those standards. Well, what were we doing there? We were agreeing with the state that our local standards would match theirs. That's called loss of autonomy. We didn't get that. Okay, fast forward now. State comes up with state standards. Most school districts are aligned with those state standards. People are teaching with those state standards. Now we have 2001, and we have No Child Left Behind, signed by everybody. That's a great plan, right? No. It started out as a great plan, but then other people got a hold of it. They thought it was a great plan, and it wasn't. It's a nightmare, big-time nightmare. It's a punishing system for schools and kids. And ever since those days, when we started aligning curriculum in California, our dropout rate has jumped dramatically. Starting in the mid-1990s, we've dropped out, our kids, we're probably about 70–80% increase in dropouts over those time periods. And they're still dropping out. I started the show, the Inside Education show, because I wanted to stop the dropout rate. I wanted to call attention to politicians about the dropout rate. Because the only way you could do it. Thousands of kids I saw drop out because the schools were turning them off and they had no place to go. Now I want to say this about a dropout. I respect a dropout. I respect a dropout tremendously because it takes a lot of courage to say, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this system for me. And I've seen these kids do that, and you sometimes wonder why they're doing it and all that stuff, and everybody goes, oh, why would you leave school? Well, they're leaving school because they feel better someplace else. School is not meeting their needs. You take away all the shop classes out of your schools. You know what we've done in California? I think maybe 90% of our shop classes are out of the schools now. Okay, you know what that means for this and our kids and learning for here? See, we all grew up on farms or shops or whatever. We had those kind of classes. Our hands could interact with our minds. No more does that happen. And oh, by the way, where are all the machining jobs going? Where have they gone in the last 20 years? See, it's all related. It's all related. But what Common Core is, it's the next step. No Child Left Behind was supposed to have been reauthorized about 6 years ago, and it wasn't. It's just sort of drifting out there as a law. Well, then along comes the president with Race to the Top. Oh, Race to the Top. It's a competitive grant program. Your state needs to get on board with this. Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, we're all going to have a common curriculum throughout the United States. One size fits all for every kid. And oh, by the way, did I say that Bill Gates is behind it? And Eli Broad. It's big business wanting to control the education system, the public education system. And everybody thinks that's great. Bill and Melinda Gates, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I was at River City High School as the assistant principal, about to be the principal. And I walked in there and we had small learning communities, and we were going to be a Gates school. And we had like a $2 million grant to facilitate small learning communities. Okay, and this is how it went down before I got there. And boy, did they get ticked at me when I got there. They came in 2 years before, the Gates people, and they said, you teachers, this is what you're going to do. And this is how you're going to do it. And this is what we expect. Well, how many of you are teachers? Okay. Now, I want to ask, what would happen if that happened to you? Hello. And you know what? The entire staff at River City High School were like going, and they had all these different in-services and stuff. So I walked into the first one, and I could see it was very contentious in the meeting. Everybody's kind of whining and all that stuff, and I said to myself, this is a no-go for this Gates thing. A no-go. Well, Race to the Top, primarily by Gates, is the same thing. It's a program, an agenda that's being foisted upon all the kids in this state, in this nation. Not just, see, it's the federalization of public schools. And that's what Race to the Top did. Race to the Top used incentive money from, oh, what was that bailout thing they had? See, the economy crashed. And oh, by the way, the guy behind that, one of them was, his name was Schulman. Little known fact. We're starting to find these facts out with this IRS business. You know Schulman? The guy who said, you know, I don't know. I think it was Easter egg hunt with my kids. Remember that guy?
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Head of the IRS.
Chris Street, partner in the show, researched this whole thing. He knows who this Schulman guy is. We've got him wired. There's going to be a ton of information that's going to continue to come out about the IRS thing. But I digress. So we had all this money that was poured into the system, and Obama got about 700, almost $1 trillion worth of what kind of money was that?
TARP.
What? No, what was it? It was our money, right? But they called it what? Incentive money? What was the term? Stimulus, yeah. So what the brilliant people did is they said, we're going to go to these states that are really desperate for money, like California. And by the way, did you notice that all the states are kind of desperate right now for money? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, look, you apply for this grant, and this is how you do it. You change all of your laws to correspond with all federal laws related to teaching, related to curriculum, related to finance and everything. And oh, by the way, if you do that, we'll allow you to apply for the grant. So California dutifully went out and did that. And of course, what happened? We were looking for $700 million. What happened? The big middle finger from the government, of course. But oh, thank you for changing all of your laws to comply with federal standards now. Any school board members in here? Any school board members in here? Come on, you can admit to past school board members. You just lost autonomy, more autonomy. School boards now are nothing more than just pass-throughs for federal governments. That's what they are. And that's what they're going to get. It's going to be worse. Where are you going to go to complain or show concern about what your children are being taught in your schools? Washington, D.C.? Now, anybody ever met Arnie Duncan? I've met Arnie Duncan. Okay, Arnie Duncan is not an educator. Go figure. The president is a community organizer. Arnie Duncan has very little educational background. He was the superintendent of public instruction in Chicago schools. How are they doing? Anyway, Arnie Duncan has no background. I went to a conference 2 years ago in Washington, D.C. as part of a program I had to go. And we sat at table rounds. There's probably about 10,000 people at this conference. And I was so fortunate to sit at the same table as Arnie Duncan. I have a picture of him, actually. I don't want to show it, but I do have a picture. But Arnie Duncan is as dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to schools. He knows nothing. He has no idea how he can talk it. He can get it out there. But to be a teacher and to have the empathy as to what goes on in the classroom and know what your individual student needs are, that he might as well be out there on Pluto. He has no comprehension of that. That's the way it's working, and that's what's happening to our schools. Common Core is big data, though. Okay, I brought this to show you something. Part of Race to the Top and Common Core and all that is data. All right, this is not a CUME folder, but every student has a CUME folder. You know what that is? And it is what?
Cumulative files to track what they've learned through the years.
Right. Okay, so if I have a student, I have my school here, and we're going to go to Tom's school now, and the student is now in the 7th grade, leaving my elementary school. Tom, Here is the Kuhn folder for Johnny Jones. You got it. I don't have it anymore. It's real physical paper. Okay, here it is. It's yours, sayonara. I don't want it. I keep no copies. When you want to see a student's Kuhn folder, what do you have to do?
Go to the office and check it out.
Go to the office and check it out. This is confidential information about students, not to be shared. Race to the Top says, oh, by the way, you want to be part of Race to the Top, you have to put all this information into the computer. Our database, the federal government's database.
They were tracking your child.
Yeah, that's why it's called big data. They're collecting data like you can't believe all the way around right now. Yeah, they're sucking up data and data pieces. That's why all these little digits are right there. Because it is all about taking charge of the child. Okay, no more will you have this Kuhn folder. If you want to check it out, hey, somebody can hack it and get all the information they want about the child, right? Now, why in the world would you want the federal government to have any information about our children? It's none of their business, but it's, well, it's all control. And it's all about, well, have you ever heard of kamikazes? There were some mathematical formulas during World War II they came up with, and some algorithms and so on. Because, you know, these crazy kamikaze guys, you didn't know what ship they were going to fly their plane into, right? So they came up with some mathematical formulas that they can use in the gun batteries. And so they could at least try and project where these guys are going to be. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Linear projections is one of the terms we use to this. They're going to take all that data, accumulated over years, and they're going to start projecting everything your child needs. The government will, you'll be out of it as a parent or grandparent. These Kuhn folders right now are protected by privacy laws, but Race to the Top takes that away. The other thing about Race to the Top, Race to the Top is couched like this. This is how Race to the Top deal goes down. Race to the Top